All right, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 5. It's going to kind of be a big day for us because Chapter 5 deals with the 3 generic competitive strategies. Now, we meet our old friend Michael Porter again. Remember, he loves those lists. Well, Michael Porter, people were going to him and say, tell me what to do. This is what managers say all the time. Tell me what to do. If you tell me what to do, I'm a hard-working guy. I'll work my fingers to the bone. I'll do what you tell me. I'm pretty smart. Just tell me what to do. So the deal with management is not that we're not willing to work hard and give it the due diligence and all that. We just are afraid to make a decision as to what to do. And it's more fear than not knowing. Because, you know, once you decide and you do it and it doesn't work, well, you know, you messed up. So we have to get over that fear. So managers were going to Michael Porter and going, dude, you're the genius, you're the smart guy, tell me what to do. And finally he said, all right, if you want me to, I'll give you this. He came up with, back in the day, 3 generic strategies. 3 big global, not global, that's a bad word, 3 big generic ambiguous strategies. And Porter said, this is just a way to point you in the right direction. One of these strategies says, well, you need to be pointed over here. And another one says, maybe you need to be pointed this way. So this is not your strategy. This is just kind of focusing you on how to do your strategy, how to go about it. Nowadays, there are 5 generic strategies. Somebody just wanted to write a new book. Basically, they've taken the last 2 and added another, like a subset. Y'all can read that if you want to. That's fine. There are 3 generic strategies. Just 3 generic strategies. And here's what they are. I'm going to put them up there, and then we're going to talk about them. 3 generic strategies. Low-cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. All right, that's just what Porter called them, and we're going to talk about each one of them ad nauseum and tell you about what they mean. So here we're going to start with the first one. Low-cost leadership. The definition of low-cost leadership is having the lowest operating cost in the industry. Actually, it's trying to have the lowest operating cost in the industry. Who cares if you have the lowest? Your goal is to get it as low as you possibly can. And if you can be the lowest, well, that's great. The point is, focus on your cost side of the income statement. Focus on your cost side of that balance sheet. Minimize that, and it's a great strategy to have. It'll have all kind of benefits. So this is what it says. It does not say having the lowest price product in the market. It does not say that. This is about cost. This is about efficiency. So Porter says you can take a strategy as low-cost leadership, and your goal is to minimize those costs as much as you can. So what does that mean? Number 1, it means do a better job than your rivals performing those value chain activities. Be more effective in your value chain. You should readdress your value chain all the time. How can I cut this a little bit? If you could go to Coca-Cola right now and say, look, I've come up with a way, not a formula, a machine that'll do something, either put the bottle cap on or something that'll save you 1/1000th of a penny on every product you make. They would make you the senior vice president and probably give you millions and millions of dollars. Think how much money they would save. If they could figure out how to save 1/1000th of a penny per unit. Do that times the math, how many they sell. Oh my goodness, I guarantee you there is a meeting at Coca-Cola today where they're talking about how do we reduce our costs? How do we reduce our production costs, our transportation costs? How do we reduce that per unit? Because that's a good strategy to have, especially if you have millions and billions of units. The second thing you can do to try to maintain that low-cost leadership is revamp the firm's overall value chain. Eliminate these activities that are very costly. And again, it's almost like the first one, but the point is you're constantly reviewing that value chain. I'm reviewing my process all the time. I'm never going to say, well, we've always done it that way. You change it. The minute you can maintain any savings, you will change it, no problem. So what kind of environment helps us with a low-cost leadership strategy? So when does low-cost strategy work best? It works best, number one, when price competition among rival sellers is vigorous. In other words, we've got a very, very intense rivalry here. So low-cost leadership works best when the rivalry is vigorous, because when the rivalry is vigorous, it's going to be real hard for me to increase sales. It's going to cost a fortune. So if I can reduce the cost of the sales that I have right now, immediately that falls to the bottom line. Y'all excuse me 1 minute. God, why is he calling me? I told him not to call me. Excuse me, Peyton, what's up? Yeah, I saw it. I know it's preseason, but were you trying? Because it didn't look like you were. I know it's preseason. But hey, you play the way you practice, and you know that. I know you're 100 years old. I know how old you are. That's no excuse. Oh, then quit. All right, dude, you can't do that anymore. I'm not going to use the word embarrassing, but that's the word that comes to mind. You quit whining. God, call your daddy if that's the way you want to talk, but I'm not going to listen to that. I'm not going to listen anyway. All right, you know you can do better. I know you can do better. I know it's preseason. I'll give you that one. Tell you what, I'll give you that one. Next preseason game, if you play, hopefully they'll leave you in for at least 2 reps, so you can get some kind of. All right, I love you too, but that's. All right, call me now. We'll work on that. All right, bye. Y'all excuse me. I apologize for that. Anyway, when does low-cost leadership? When is a good strategy? When the rivalry keeps that price competition way down. You can't sell anymore. You can't really use price to sell anymore. So how am I going to increase profits? I got to lower that cost. Number 2, the products of rival sellers are essentially identical. Coke and Pepsi. I know Coke and Pepsi would hate me if I said that, but you know they are. They're basically the same. So when the products are very similar, I can't. It's not worth it spending money to try to increase sales that way, because you really can't differentiate. So I have to reduce my costs. And that there are few ways to create product differentiation, which means it's real hard for me to convince you that my product is different than somebody else's, because they are so similar. They really, really are. You know, Coke and Pepsi are very similar. You know, deodorants usually are very, very similar. How do I convince you of that? So I've got to have low cost effectiveness here if those 3 things are in existence. Number 4, most buyers use the product in the exact same way. Again, all of these things are saying there's really no differentiation here, none at all. And number 5, buyers incur very low costs by switching to another another supplier. I'm a Coke drinker. If I want to start drinking Pepsi, it's not going to cost me a whole lot. In fact, nothing to go start drinking Pepsi. So if I can switch to another product very easily, man, you better keep those costs low. You better, because that's just, you're going to have to respond that way. Number 6, buyers are large. There's a huge group of buyers, and they have a whole lot of power to keep your prices down. So that's why I need to work on costs all the time, so that if I do need to adjust my price, I can make up for that so that my margins stay the same. If I have to wiggle on the price, I need to be able to wiggle down here on the cost, keep those margins steady. And industry newcomers use introductory low prices to bring in customers. I've got a brand new product, and the way I can get sales as easily as possible is come in with a low price. And I know I'm going to withstand some problems when I do that, but your competition also needs to say, well, we can match that price. So if I keep my expenses low, if I keep the cost side of that income statement down, well, then I can lower my price and still maintain those margins. All right, there are problems with low-cost leadership. So don't get me wrong. It's not, I mean, don't take it that, oh, low-cost leadership is the way you want to go. There are some problems with low-cost leadership. The first one is getting carried away with overly aggressive price cutting. Let's cut our price to nothing. Let's go. You can't do that unless you really have these economies of scales over here that will help you keep your cost per unit down. But because I want to be so competitive, and because I read somewhere that the lower the price, the more people will buy, and I just understand that from my natural being, let's just cut the price. Well, that's a knee-jerk reaction, and you have to look at the whole picture before you do that. Keeping low-cost advantage proprietary. What that means is I've created a low-cost advantage. I can keep my costs low because of a patent or because of a process that I have that nobody else has. Well, as soon as the rest of the market realizes those advantages, you don't have that advantage anymore. So if you're counting on some magic thing, if it's a patent, well, you're protected for a few years, but then it's gone. So it's real hard to create these advantages and keep them secret so that nobody else can ever find out. And the third thing is being fixated on cost reduction. I understand I can't raise my price, so I'm going to go in there and be as efficient. I'm going to cut it to the bone. Yes, on your Excel spreadsheet, numbers might look good because you've reduced and reduced and reduced. In reality, your absenteeism goes up, your employees are quitting you right and left, you're not giving your employees the resources they need because you don't want to pay for them, that they need to do a good job. So you can be fixated on cost reduction and literally drive people away. Your quality will go down, and followed by your customers leaving you in droves. So that's low-cost leadership. Number two, differentiation. Now that's what differentiation means. Differentiation means that you appear to make your product different. You create things that appear to make your product different. A lot of times you can't make it different. So you have to differentiate it through communication. Now, we didn't talk about this, and I should have, but low-cost leadership uses production-focused kind of activities to keep those prices, to get those costs low. So it's a very production-oriented strategy. Differentiation, on the other hand, is very market-driven. I'm trying to convince you, to communicate to you that this product, dadgummit, is really different. Rolex. How many of y'all have a Rolex? Oh, I hope some of you do. I really do. But I can take a $30 Timex quartz watch and a $10,000 Rolex Presidential. It's probably more than that now. And they will tell about the exact same time all the time. You can measure time with that $30 Timex that you can with that $10,000 Rolex. I guarantee it. And be just about as accurate. So the point is, when I'm buying a Rolex, I'm not buying something to make sure I get to my meeting on time. And therefore, when Rolex does an advertisement, they will never talk about timekeeping, really. That this is going to get you to your meeting on time, or this will make sure that your roast doesn't cook too long. When they say you're a Rolex, they say things like, it's your time, you deserve it. Finally, you get your Rolex. They're selling you who knows what, but they're not selling you a timepiecing apparatus. They're selling you prestige. They're selling you a reward for being excellent. You deserve a Rolex. So if you're looking for something to keep time, they're not even looking. They don't want you to buy that watch. They want somebody that buys a Rolex for all those other reasons. So that's how they differentiate a Rolex from a Timex. I need to show you that you're not buying a watch, you're buying status for yourself and et cetera, et cetera. So that's differentiation. We're going to spend all of our money on marketing and advertising to convince you, product placement, to convince you that this thing really is different. And yes, you should spend $10,000 more than you would have normally spent to buy this watch. So here's the deal. Here's what, when differentiation works best. Here's the situation. When buyer needs and uses of the product are diverse. I can buy a Rolex if my product needs and uses are diverse. I need it as a status symbol. I need it as whatever. So you can differentiate that way. Now, Timex, on the other hand, differentiates the other way. I can get you a good quality watch for 30 bucks, and it tells time all the time, and it's really good, and it even kind of looks good. It's kind of stylish. And for 30 bucks, you can have this thing. So different uses. I need status, or I need something to really tell time. Well, both of those players can use that. There are many ways to differentiate a product or service that have value to the buyers. So I have to have many different opportunities and paths that I can go down to convince you this is what you really need to buy from me. Number 3, few rival firms are following a similar differentiation approach. There are just a handful really, of very fine watches. You know, and me and you don't even know a lot of them because they're not even focused on me and you. That's why we don't see a lot of their advertisements. They know where we live, and they're not about to advertise to us to spend money because they know me and you are not going to buy their product. But you know, you got Rolex, and you got I can't even think of the other brands, but they're just you know, they're out there. And so they're very few and far between. And number 4, technological change is fast-paced, and competition revolves around rapidly evolving product features. This would be, instead of Rolex, let's talk about cell phones. How do you differentiate one cell phone from another? You know, Apple came out, and one time, you know, that iPhone was just the bomb. And then all the patents kind of went away or whatever, and everybody's got the big screen now, and now you've got all those different iPhones, and everybody's just, not iPhones, they got all those different cell phones, and everybody's smart, everything's a smartphone now. So where's the differentiation? I mean, I've looked at people's Sprints, and the screen looks just like my screen, same icon, same everything. So it's real hard to differentiate when the technology is just changing at just such a rapid pace. Now, there are some problems with differentiation. So I'm not saying, oh, go differentiation, take that as your strategy. It's great. That's when you would do it. Well, here's when you really wouldn't want to do it. Here's when it's kind of not going to be, it's just, the environment's not going to help you with this. When competitors may quickly copy the appealing attributes of your product. You don't have the patents, I can copy it verbatim tomorrow. And that's kind of what's happened with cell phone technology. Because in my opinion, they're all the same. It's funny, think about it. The advertisement, one of them screen, I swear, was like 10 millimeters longer than the other. You can't even measure that. That's that long. And they were bragging, oh, look how big the screen is. They're all small screens. But because I can honestly say it's 10 millimeters longer, you need to buy this, and obviously people do. Number 2, you receive an enthusiastic response from your buyers. You come out with this thing that you think is the newest technology and it's going to be great, and the market just goes, I don't care for that. That didn't do a thing for me. So you've got to be careful there. And the last one, overspending in an effort to differentiate. I am so focused, I'm so just crazy about making my product look different. I'm spending all kind of money on crazy stuff just to make it different. The market sees right through that. They're not gonna do that. So we've talked about low-cost leadership. We've talked about differentiation. And now we're going to talk about something called focus. Focus, the definition basically is you pick a very small and specific target market, and you put all of your attention and resources to that one small market. You really don't care about those other markets. If they buy your product, that's gravy, but you're not going to worry about that. I'm focused on this one little sliver, and that's all I'm really caring about. A good example of focus are magazines. the magazine industry is very, very focused. 17 magazine. Who reads 17 magazines? Not 17-year-old girls, I can tell you that. No self-respecting 17-year-old girl in the world is going to read 17 magazine. She's moved on to Cosmo or whatever it is. 17 magazine is for kids in junior high school. And how can you tell? Because, well, how can you tell who 17 magazine is focused toward? What market segment are they focused? Well, the way to tell where a magazine is focused is open it up and look at the commercial. Look at the advertisements, commercials. Look at the advertisements. Oh my goodness, one of the largest advertisers in 17 magazine is Clearasil. Holy moly. What's the biggest problem a young adolescent girl has? You know, good gracious, I need clear skin. So that's who advertises in these magazines, and that means that's who's reading these magazines. So they're not going to put something in a 17 that somebody else, that a 28-year-old woman would want, because she's not reading that. So look at where they're advertising and where they're focused. You could take it another way. Field and Stream. I don't know how many of y'all read Field and Stream. Very focused. Again, 17 is focused on, what is it, 12 to 15-year-old adolescent females? Well, that'd be adolescent if they're that age, but females. Field and Stream, good gracious. 18 to, what, 50 white males reading Field and Stream. How can you tell? Open it up and look who the advertisements are. Ammo, bullets advertised. You can't advertise cigarettes in this country, but you can advertise bullets. I don't get it. Bullets, and there's always a Bowie knife, and somewhere in there is going to be a Skoal commercial advertisement. And so who uses these products? So that's what that's what focus is. I've picked a very small, I don't care if a female ever picks up Field and Stream. I really don't care. There's nothing in there in terms of articles going to appeal to her, and there's nothing in terms of advertisements going to appeal to her. So I've just ignored her. Now, if she buys it and looks at it, that's gravy. But I'm not after her at all. So when does a focus strategy work? When the target market niche is big enough to be profitable. And that's why 17 magazine is still going on. There are enough 12 to 15-year-old girls that want to buy that stuff that buy it. And there's a big enough hunting market or whatever to buy Field and Stream. It's big enough to support that activity. When industry leaders do not value a presence in the niche market as crucial. In other words, I don't have to have this presence for it to be crucial to me. I don't need that. I can deal with what I'm using right now, so I don't have to count on these other things. The industry leaders do that. So the industry leaders really don't care. People magazine, Time magazine, they don't really care that those niches are there, so it's not crucial to them. So they don't have to have a presence in the 17 market or the Field and Stream market. They can ignore you. So if the industry leaders can ignore you, you have a chance. The industry has many different niches and segments. Now, that's a tough call, but you do. If you think about, take the male market of magazine buying. You've got everything from Men's Health, the GQ. You've got Playboy in there. You've got Esquire magazine in there. You've got all these magazines in there. Not magazines. Each one of those magazines is a different market segment. So there are many market segments. If there was only 2 market segments in the guy market of magazines, there'd only be 2 magazines. And few, if any, other rivals are attempting to specialize in the same market that you are. So tell me another 17 magazine. I'm sure there is one. I don't know of one that's like that. So there are very few rivals in this. Now, problems with using a focus strategy. Competitors may find ways to match your focus capabilities. So if me and you could come up with another Field and Stream, guns and groceries or whatever, and get some backing and capital, I don't think people could really differentiate from that. And so we probably could give Field and Stream a run for their money. And consumer preferences may shift over time. If all of a sudden there wasn't a market for guns and Bowie knives and a skull, which is not going to happen, and I've put all my eggs in that one basket, then that's going to be tough. That's going to be a real hard situation to deal with and to try to overcome. So, any questions about that? Okay, I said earlier, no animals. All right, no toys. You know, no balloons, no balls. You guys are getting I appreciate the fact that you're all crazy here and you're excited about this, but y'all got to calm down. And y'all looked really good in those uniforms, but dadgum, we just need to bring it down just a notch in here, just a notch. Okay, we talked about a bunch of things today. The biggest thing we talked about, though, was how do we use this strategy, these 3 generic strategies that Porter has given us. We need to understand when they help. We need to also understand when they don't help. So we've talked about that. You know, we're about done with that. So that ends chapter 5. Peace. I'll see y'all later.
On the front door, run around back, out through the window. Here come Jack with clothes in his hand, he running through the field. Old shotgun knocking dust at his heels. Says, "Come here, woman, tell me who was